and Mork are the gods of the Orkoid race, and much like the orcs themselves, represent the species' own barbaric and savage nature. Gork is described as brutal yet cunning, while Mork is described as cunning yet brutal. The gods have existed since long before the evolution of the human species, ignoring the other gods of the warp by engaging each other in a constant and eternal battle of strength and wit. Despite the orcs regularly engaging in fights over which god is best, with those who worship Gork known as Gorkers and those who worship Mork as Morkers, ultimately it matters little to the orcs as to which of these gods is worshipped, for both represent the power and dominance of the orc race. The temples constructed in honour of the Ork Gods are massive war machines hundreds of feet in size, known as Gargants, the orc equivalent to Imperial Titans, capable of dominating the battlefield with their sheer firepower, and are built to resemble the orcs' own mental image of Gork and Mork. Much like the gods of Chaos and the Eldari, Gork and Mork also appeared in Warhammer Fantasy, and within this universe, both Gork and Mork had a champion. Very much like how the Chaos Gods themselves have their own champions. Gork's champion in this universe was the Black Orc Grimgor Ironhide, one of the most brutal and savage orcs to ever exist, while Mork's champion was the Night Goblin Skarsnik, the most powerful and cunning goblin within the World's Edge Mountains. Within Warhammer 40,000, the self-proclaimed herald of Gork and Mork is the orc warlord Ghazghkull Magorek Thraka of the Goth clan, and is quite possibly the most infamous and most powerful of all orcs within the 41st millennium, thanks in part to his actions in the Second and Third Wars for the world of Armageddon. But is Ghazghkull the sole champion of Gork and Mork, or is he simply the champion of just one of these brutish gods? As stated before, Grimgor Ironhide was the champion of Gork within Warhammer Fantasy. However, before the orc shaman Wurzag discovered that both Gork and Mork had their own unique champion, Grimgor Ironhide was convinced that he was the champion of both Ork Gods. However, following the destruction of the Warhammer world during the End Times, in this reality, Gork and Mork have fused into a singular entity known as Gorkamorka, which has been referenced with a large monument of the same name upon the orc-controlled world of Angelus, although Gorkamorka has been known to split into both Gork and Mork on occasion. As such, given the interconnected nature of both the Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40,000 universes, thanks to the warp linking these separate universes, could it be possible that Ghazghkull is in fact only the champion to one of the Ork Gods? If this were the case, then Ghazghkull could easily be the champion of either god, as not only is he brutal, savage and incredibly strong, but he is also incredibly cunning, having a trait that most orcs lack: foresight. Unlike most orcs, Ghazghkull will make plans with painstaking amounts of detail, or at least by the standard of orcs. Ghazghkull will also spend more time commanding his troops before attacking himself in the final assault, or whenever his presence is required most on the front lines. But there are others who are indeed viable candidates to be the champions of the Ork Gods. One such example is the Orc Commando Snickrot. Snickrot was an Orc Nob who took control of the remaining members of the Red Skull tribe, who were all but slaughtered by the Imperial Guard during the Second Armageddon War. Snickrot would lead a guerrilla campaign of terror and psychological warfare against Imperial forces, using stealth to approach their victims before scalping them. So effective were their terror tactics that his band was even feared by the Armageddon Orc Hunters Regiment of the Imperial Guard. Snickrot was also a devout worshipper of Mork, and believed that his chosen weapons, A pair of machete-like knives named Mork's teeth are consecrated to the god. Given this, it seems fair to argue that Snickrot could be a potential candidate to become the champion of Mork. The only downside to Snickrot being a champion of Mork is simply due to the fact that Snickrot is not a war boss or a warlord, only holding the rank of Nob, which is used to designate orcs who, while higher ranking than boys, are still lower on the chain of command compared to war bosses and even certain odd boys. So if we were to focus on a war boss or warlord to be a champion of Mork, then one of the most likely candidates would be Nazdreg Ug Erdgrub, warlord of the Bad Moon clan. Nazdreg is quite easily one of the most intelligent and cunning of all orc warlords, some say even more so than Ghazghkull himself. It's fortunate for the Imperium that Nazdreg seems more focused on obtaining more material wealth as opposed to leading a fully fledged war, the orcish equivalents to Imperial crusades. If he ever did, he would be just as dangerous as Ghazghkull. Nazdreg and Ghazghkull have also allied with one another on numerous occasions, such as during the invasion of Piscina IV, which was just prior to the launch of the Third Armageddon War to test out Nazdreg's newly developed teleporter technology. Nazdreg and his forces have devastated at least 11 separate Imperial worlds, and have managed to defeat or simply outwit any Imperial forces sent to stop him. Nazdreg, unlike most orcs, is also fluent in Imperial Gothic, and is smart enough to use incentive of rewards to get the most from his troops. This would make Nazdreg a prime candidate to become the champion of Mork, if however that role isn't supplanted by Ghazghkull. But what about champions of Gork? One possible yet obscure candidate to become the champion of Gork is the orc warlord Clawjaw, also known as the Mighty Mangler of Bork. Formerly known as Cog, this orc, while out hunting one day upon his homeworld of Bork, ate a squig that had suffered from some strange and presumably unnatural mutations, and his body fell unconscious as a result of his curious appetite. Upon returning to his tribe, Cog had changed, encrusted with rusted metallic growths, and was far larger than the biggest orcs within his tribe. He then proceeded to brutally kill the first orc he came into contact with, crushing the unfortunate orc's skull and ripping off their arms using only his teeth. Soon, Clawjaw, as he was now known, united all the neighbouring orc tribes who were in awe of his brutality. Clawjaw then raised a war and took over the entire planet, destroying its capital and crushing the forces of the Imperial Guard, Ultramarines, Dark Angels, Howling Griffins, and Blood Angels chapters who were all sent to stop him. Following this, Clawjaw led his war to conquer a large portion of the Ghoul Stars, gaining a large territory as a result. Another possible candidate to be the champion of Gork is Tusker the Demon Killer. Tusker sought a battle without end, and to do this he led his war into a warp rift known as the Eye of Terror. His war ransacked many worlds within the Eye of Terror until it landed upon a world belonging to the Demon Prince of Khorne called the Blood Prince. Here, Tusker and his orcs battled the overwhelming demonic legions of the Blood God, with Tusker even using his power claw to deliver a punch to the groin of the Demon Prince before he was slain. However, so pleased was the Blood God by the brutality and savagery of the orcs that they are resurrected on a daily basis to continue their eternal battle for Khorne's amusement. Tusker, however, is pleased with this result, as he has finally found his never-ending battle. Perhaps with Ghazghkull being the herald of Gork and Mork, he might be the one to discover the champions of Gork and Mork, with these orcs, in essence, becoming Ghazghkull's lieutenants and champions in the fabled Ragnarok, an event in which the orcs will face every other race within the galaxy for one last great apocalyptic battle. Perhaps the champions of Gork and Mork might not even come from the Orcs specifically. Perhaps one might even come from the Gretchen species of Orkoids, such as the Red Gobbo of the Gretchen Revolutionary Committee on the world of Gork Mork, who leads a rebellion against the Orcs and has even managed to beat them in multiple skirmishes thanks to his cunning and guile. Perhaps one such champion might even be the Imperial Guard Commissar Sebastian Yarrick, who is the greatest rival and favourite enemy of the warlord Ghazghkull Magorok Thraka, similar to how Gork and Mork are each other's greatest rival and favourite enemies. It seems unlikely given how Yarrick is a human and not an Orkoid, but that being said, it seems that somehow Yarrick has managed to generate his own miniature Waaagh field, resulting in him being able to utilise an Ork Power Claw as his weapon of choice, where normally Ork technology is more or less unusable by Imperial forces. What do you think? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.